Heyo, and what is up, Sledge Nation? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. Monday Night Raw decided to follow up a very unimportant and uninteresting Hell in a Cell pay-per-view by trying to correct some of those things, doing their very best to try to make things interesting by having Money in the Bank qualifiers, going about things in the right way, but doing it all, for the most part, in the very wrong way that WWE always does. And to put a cherry on top of this whole thing, they decided to throw in an unnecessary Hell in a Cell match just for good measure. And we are going to talk about all of it and so much more right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare. You are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Monday Night Raw review and reaction show. Let's do it.
Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
All right, Sledgeheads, before we bring the hammer down on this episode of Monday Night Raw, because man, does it deserve it, I want to give credit where credit is due, and props are definitely deserved to Drew McIntyre, to Bobby Lashley, and also to Matt Riddle and Xavier Woods. Okay, now for Drew and for Bobby, after what they put themselves through last night, to be on the show tonight and give us the matches that they gave us is just something that needs to be commended. Absolutely great stuff from these guys. However, I do not appreciate the fact that they beat the shit out of each other in a Hell in a Cell match for the WWE Championship, and other than the visual effects that were seen laid across the back of Drew McIntyre, they seemingly weren't even in a Hell in a Cell match last night. There was no selling of the effects of being in a match like Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell is supposed to change you forever, but it doesn't even warrant you being out of action for 24 hours. Bobby Lashley now, I think, might be the only wrestler in history to compete in two Hell in a Cell matchups within 24 hours of one another, which is another feat to be commended. Their opponents on this night would be Matt Riddle and Xavier Woods, respectively, and both of these guys showed up and showed out. They really did great in-ring stuff tonight, these four men, and especially coming after Drew and Bobby's Hell in a Cell last night. Congratulations, gentlemen. You put on a hell of a show. Now that that's out of the way, we'll give WWE credit for doing qualifiers. I hate when they have superstars just showing up and being like, well, I'm going to be in the Money in the Bank. Or they do it a lot also with the Royal Rumble. I'm going to be on the Royal Rumble. You have a WWE Championship opportunity at stake, or a Universal Championship opportunity at stake when it comes to the Money in the Bank. And you can't just declare yourself worthy. It makes sense to have these matches and to make people qualify and earn their place inside this matchup. And the brackets for these matchups so far gave us matches that seemingly were very predictable, right? When you just look at the field overall, just take the first matchup right off the bat. You had AJ Styles versus Ricochet. You automatically assume WWE is going to go with AJ, but they did make the right decision, giving the win to Ricochet, who needs the win more in this scenario. He got a high-profile win against a former WWE champion, elevating his status back up ever so slightly since he's been scraping the bottom of the barrel lately. And he earns himself a WWE Championship opportunity by being in the Money in the Bank. Now he has to go and win that match to really come full circle and get himself back to main event status. It's a great story to be told. It's the right way to go about it. The wrong thing that they did was they couldn't help themselves. And for a majority of these matchups, including the qualifiers, we get interferences, we get weird distractions, we get stupid excuses because the WWE is too worried about protecting anybody. And God forbid we just gave Ricochet a clean win over AJ Styles. AJ doesn't need to win in this situation. He is one half of the WWE Tag Team Champions of Raw. That's where his attention should be. Apparently, that's where his attention was during his match. He seems to be more concerned with his tag team title than the opportunity of maybe once again becoming a WWE champion, because it was more important for him to check out almost being thrown through the barricade by the Viking Raider Warrior Raiders, who came out for some stupid reason, I guess to get involved with Omos because he was out there, and to make the distraction for AJ. And then they make it even worse, because if you want to get technical, AJ, yeah, he was distracted. He watched everything go down, but then he was still in position to deliver the phenomenal forearm. He should have known better, because he waited way too long watching all the bullshit in the back. He's seen Ricochet kind of making it to his feet, but he was stupid enough to still go for the move, and now he's the loser for it. But I am happy that Ricochet is moved forward. A guy like him being in the Money in the Bank ladder match is a shoo-in to make it more entertaining. Is he going to win? Hell fucking no. Ricochet is not winning this matchup, but a person and a performer like him deserves to be in a match such as that. It's going to make Money in the Bank better just having him in it. He's going to do some crazy spots. Look at what he did when he came into NXT. The guy made his name by winning the North American Championship in a 6-person ladder match. He knows what he's doing. It's going to be good, so I don't really mind it all that much. Let's get to the other qualifiers. This time we moved to the women's section of things, which is where the poop hammers start to fall. Definitely gotta bring this one down. And I have to ask you guys, for the first time tonight, riddle me this, my friends. How stupid are the WWE? Well, I could tell you how stupid they are in one move. All day on social media, they announced Eva Marie's partner, Piper Niven, was named DouDrop. It was on WWE.com's Twitter account. It was all over social media all day. Everybody was talking about it leading in to Monday Night Raw tonight. And then they go and have the nerve to have the segment to make it seem as if Eva Marie just named her spontaneously. Oh, your name is going to be DouDrop. We all already knew this. Why would you make it seem like she just thought about this on the fly? Are we supposed to be that stupid? Do you think not everybody's on social media? Because the whole goddamn world is. You got 5-year-olds with iPhones better than mine right now. You don't think everybody's up to date on what's going on? You don't think people watched NXT UK TakeOver? You don't think they know who Piper Niven is? You're barely getting it over the way it is now. DouDrop is a terrible name. When I was watching Raw tonight, my wife was watching with me, and she saw Piper Niven on the screen, and she was like, oh, Blue Buns is back. And I was like, who the fuck is Blue Buns? And she's like, the girl with the buns, with the blue buns, because she had, like, blue buns in her hair. And I'm like, Blue Buns is fucking fantastic. That is a much better name than DouDrop. So I'm going to go with Blue Buns from now on until she formally gets herself back to being Piper Niven. The one thing I will say that I found interesting here was that it was a little bit of a self-aware segment, as Piper Niven wasn't too happy with Eva Marie naming her DouDrop. She made this face, and then there would be this weird kind of tension, and it would carry itself on into a match that they had. And here's another thing that they do wrong. While I appreciate them having qualifiers for the women as well, doing it in tag team scenarios with over 3 weeks to build into the next pay-per-view is just wrong. I would be much more appreciative of seeing Naomi and Asuka get their way into the Money in the Bank match on their own merits. And to make it even worse, Naomi and Asuka were teamed together in this qualifier to go against Eva Marie and Blue Buns, DouDrop, Piper Niven. And this match didn't even go 3 minutes before there was a miscommunication of sorts. Eva Marie taking advantage of the bigger, stronger Blue Buns partner that she has. And she didn't take kindly to this. Eva Marie tagged herself into the match to try to get the pin. Naomi would end up kicking out, And then Eva would go to tag her partner back in, to which Blue Buns dropped her Blue Buns to the ground and did not accept the tag. She looked very pleased with herself in doing so. So there's already trouble in paradise for the Evolution and her little DouDrop. Awful. What an awful name. And part of me wonders if it's like a play on words. Because you know Vince McMahon doesn't like himself the big women. And is he trying to tongue-in-cheek say, oh, please, do drop some pounds, Miss Niven? I certainly hope that's not the case. Is he shallow enough of an old man to do that? Oh, ask Shorty G. He's been walking around as the blunt of short jokes. You got AJ and Omos calling the Viking Raider Warrior Raiders stinky Vikings. You don't think that's just a little lowbrow enough for Vince McMahon? I certainly do. Anyway, this match was over before it began. Naomi and Asuka backed their way into the Money in the Bank for the women on the Raw side of things. Then we had more just awful women's nonsense. Well, you know what? I don't want to talk about Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. I don't want to talk about them, but we do have to talk about them. But before we do that, let's just go over to a little something else right now. And I'm going to ask you guys once again, riddle me this, my friends. What the hell is going on with Nikki Cross? What is this? What is this? What is she doing? It's a little late to be jumping on board the comic book thing right now. I mean, comics and the comic movies, sure, they're big, and Disney Plus has got Loki and all these shows coming out, but the superhero bandwagon's kind of slowing down. I mean, she's like a step behind on the times. She's not making her way into the Marvel Universe dressed like this. I don't know if she's trying to be Booster Gold. What is this look here? It's somewhere in between Batman and Robin, but mixed together with what is she, Moth Girl? She's Butterfly Bitch. Butterfly Baby. I don't know. What was the word she kept saying? She was gonna be something. Oh, I forgot. Spark. She's got a spark. Is that who she is? She's Nikki Spark. When she came out, she was still just Nikki Cross. She had stupid superhero theme music. But what is this get up about? What was wrong with Nikki Cross? Nikki Cross was just fine in the leather with the ripped jeans, being a psycho, unpredictable, unhinged, crazy, lunatic broad. I liked that Nikki Cross. And, more power to her. If this was her idea, and this is something she's passionate about and she wants to do, maybe she'll be able to get it over, and I guess it'll be fine. Like, we've had Molly Holly, we've had the Hurricane, and if that's what she's going for, great. She's the next generation Mighty Molly, fine. But she looks like she's auditioning for Jupiter's Legacy, and maybe she doesn't know that show has been canceled. And if you don't know what that is, it's a Netflix superhero show that kind of looks like this, in a nutshell. Like, all of the costumes are kind of cheesy, but okay, I guess. And I just don't understand the evolution here. What is the backstory? Why is she suddenly Moth Lady? Or Butterfly Girl? Maybe she's a big fan of Miraculous. I don't know. Somebody explain to me what this getup is. Because I don't know. I had to talk about this just to distract myself for a second from the awfulness that comes with the rest of the women's division tonight. We'll get back to this ridiculous getup on Nikki Cross in just a couple of minutes. But let's get back to the business at hand. Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville are having a conversation with Rhea Ripley, and they're coming down on her for getting herself disqualified, saying that, these rules that we have are not meant to be exploited. And I'm sitting here feeling like WWE's just smacking me in the face, like, you're stupid and you don't know the rules. You don't watch the show. You don't know what we do. You're a dumbass. Oh, no, I'm not. And before Rhea Ripley could even say what she said, my brain is just malfunctioning. It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean the rules aren't supposed to be exploited? This is what happens all the time. this is what happens all the time. Let's leave out the fact that the spot in question that got this girl disqualified is one of the tamest spots in all of pro wrestling. It does not and has not ever led to a disqualification before in the history of anybody ever pulling the tabletop off of the announce table, whether it has fallen on top of their opponent on the floor, or they threw it at them, or it hit the referee. It's never led to a disqualification before, ever. This was a lame way out of having a clean victory of this match. As much as I dislike the character of Charlotte Flair and how they push Charlotte Flair and how they book this character, I was just hoping that they would give her the belt to get this over with, but we still have to continue on here. And it's just very strange. It's very strange because Rhea's kind of acting like the villain here. She pointed out how, what are you talking about? What are these rules only for me? Because Charlotte exploits the rules all the time, which brought the Queen out to bore the shit out of us with her robotic promo, telling everybody that she thinks Rhea Ripley is smarter than she thought, but she's still gonna whip her ass. And she was granted a rematch by Sonya Deville at Money in the Bank. She's going to fight Rhea Ripley again. Both of them were happy about this. I wasn't. On we go. The women continue. We had a repeat segment from last week as Tamina and Natalya were trying to have a photo shoot and an interview with one of the promo bots in the back, and Mandy Rose was practicing with Dana Botch in the ring, causing a disruption to their photo shoot, which is the exact opposite of what happened last week. Just switch where the teams were in the segment and you have exactly what happened. It was a little bit of a stupid scuffle. All of this is pointless. I don't care. Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke keep leaning on the fact that Natty and Tamina are just second generation and they'd be nothing if it wasn't for... I don't care. I really don't care. Mandy and Dana have lost multiple opportunities at the Women's Tag Team Championships when they were around the waist of Nia and Shayna. I certainly don't care anymore. Finally getting back to the men's action for the Money in the Bank qualifiers, we had Randy Orton facing off with John Morrison. Of course, they had to have the obligatory, Randy and Matt Riddle nonsense comedy stuff, and Matt Riddle talking about going to Burger King and being a sponsor and stuffing his stash of burgers in the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then Randy Orton tells him to shut up, and then Matt Riddle's like, oh, what if we both win our matches tonight? And then Randy's like, that wouldn't be good for you, because of course Randy Orton wants to win the Money in the Bank contract, but he's going to have a hard time doing that after the fact that he was beaten by Johnny Drip Drip himself. Bad hairdo and all. My favorite part of this match was watching Matt Riddle scoot around the ring chasing The Miz in the wheelchair. Actually. Because the rest of this match, I didn't care. This is something like out of 2010, and the fact that John Morrison won was absolutely shocking to me. I didn't take in most of the match because I was just sitting back waiting for Randy to win. But that's not what happened here, which was fucking weird. Just like John Morrison's Starship Pain tonight was kind of weird. It's like the way he executed it. He went up and he did it, and then he kind of slow-moed himself. Joe Mode went into slow-mo. I don't know. It was just weird. I didn't think he was going to get the pin because he didn't execute it correctly. But he gets the win over Randy Orton. And now we have Ricochet and John Morrison. Once again, you could make the same argument that we made for Ricochet. John Morrison is a phenomenal athlete. He's a parkour lunatic. Somebody like that would be super entertaining in a Money in the Bank situation with ladders, being able to be constructed into structures and weird things that he could bounce and run off of, and it'll make everything much more entertaining. He's not going to fucking win, just like Ricochet, but the match will be better just by his presence. You know what's not better just by their presence is Nia Jax and Reginald and Shayna Baszler, no matter when they hit the screen, no matter what they're doing, my enthusiasm, my excitement, everything just completely drains. I just don't care. You know the shenanigans are going to continue when it pertains to Alexa Bliss getting involved somehow with her hoogity boogity spooky ooky hypnotizing powers. Alexa Bliss can mind control like a Jedi now. And she can make people do and mirror her every move. And I don't. I just don't. I don't. Alexa Bliss has some new music now. At least it's not like a remix of The Fiend's music anymore. It's an original piece for herself, but it follows the same type of theme. It's kind of got this weird, creepy children's show kind of vibe to it, but at the same time, it's got this kind of dubsteppy, weird vibe to it. It's all right. It's all right. I just don't care for the presentation of this character as a whole. Alexa Bliss's in-ring work has been exceedingly better than we've ever seen before, but I just am not a fan of the direction of this character. And the same can be said for what they did to Nikki Cross, who came out, or before she came out, was in gorilla position, and they made her do this terrible, very cringy promo. And she tried to be authentic, and she tried to be excited, and if she was, and if that was genuine, maybe she was just nervous because of how silly she looks and how kind of out of nowhere this is coming from. You got Alexa Bliss going through a mental fucking breakdown, turning into this weird uber villain, and now her former best friend, who should have came out and debuted as the human form of Lily, in my opinion, is coming out dressed up like Molly Holly in blue and gold, and she's a superhero that doesn't have a name, but she's got superhero music, and she does superhero poses, and she's Nikki Cross now. And this is Nikki Cross now. And she's being teamed with Alexa Bliss, and they have all this history as a tag team, but there was no thought to maybe explain this in a vignette beforehand, instead of having Nikki Cross sit there and blabber on about being the spark and finding your spark and having a spirit and being special. They should have crossed paths. Maybe it's Alexa Bliss's crazy mental influence that's making her believe that she's some kind of superhuman freak. Do something interesting like that. No. We're just going to throw this at you, and you got to accept it. And then you got people telling us that WWE's saving all the good stuff. Saving all the good stuff for when the fans come back. So I guess they're just taking a shit on the show week after week now until we get to July when we get back in front of fans. Because what was this? This is another very poop hammer worthy moment. And I hate to even do it because I love me some Nikki Cross. I think she's fantastic. But this sudden change of direction and this change in the character is just maybe a little bit much for me. I'm not feeling it just yet. There is a slight possibility she could get this over. I accepted the Hurricane back in those days. I thought Mighty Molly was very good for the women's division back then. There's no telling where this is going to go. So I don't know. We had another segment for Drew McIntyre, where we should just change all of Drew McIntyre's promos to be called Story Time with Drew or History Lessons with Drew McIntyre. This guy's either auditioning to be the host of a future History Channel, documentary style show, or he's been watching too much Discovery or too many documentaries on Netflix or Hulu or whatever, or Peacock, wherever it is he's watching all this shit. Stop watching so much history. Because it's making your promos boring. Nobody cares about Winston Churchill in 2021. Unless maybe you're a descendant of the former British leader. I don't know. Please don't take offense to that. It's just boring. Boring. You know why I don't watch the History Channel? Because its presentation of documentary and historical stories are boring. And Drew McIntyre has been doing that, talking about William Wallace, and I appreciate him embracing the heritage and maybe trying to bring some sort of an education to his character. I don't know. It's just, wow. So boring. So bad. It makes his character's value much less. Talking about characters whose values are much less, we go to a gathering of clowns in the back, featuring the modern day pain in the ass, the returning Jinder Mahal that nobody wants to see. He's in the back with Cedric Alexander, with Jeff Hardy, and Sheamus, who looks like he's getting ready to go to bed because he's sitting there with his robe, coat, whatever it is, all tied up, and he's got his stupid mask on, and he looks like he's preparing to go to sleep, and he's got sleep apnea. Open your robe. Why are you even wearing a robe? If it's a coat, it looks like a robe. With your little Baron Zemo collar. That looks like he was nursing a fever standing back there. Like a sick patient. And 3 wrestlers walked into a bar. They were all jokes. So that's the punchline. These guys are arguing in the back, asking why they're not being considered for Money in the Bank. Sonya Deville is like, well, the matches are final and there's nothing she can do. Alexander's sitting back there, pissed off at Jeff Hardy because he wants a shot because he's an old guy. Jinder Mahal's been around, so I guess, Cedric thinks he's an old guy. And Sheamus, of course, has been around, so he's an old guy. So he's going on like, hey, these guys are old. Meanwhile, Cedric's like 40-something years old. Isn't he? Or he's at the very least in his late 30s. You ain't no spring chicken. And you ain't no rookie. You've been in the WWE for fucking years at this point. Stop with this shit. But the only person back here that legitimately has a gripe, I guess, could be Sheamus, because he is the United States champion. He did bring up the fact that he shouldn't even have to qualify because he is a champion. But then Adam Pearce is like, well, then you should be able to defend your title. Why don't you put your title up on the line? And he's like, oh, no, my nose still hurts. It's the way it is. Okay, sure. And then Jinder Mahal puts out this very ominous statement. He's like, well, if something bad would have happened to any of the participants, why don't you consider me as a runner-up, as a possible replacement? No thanks, Jinder. Stay the fuck away, bro. Don't be bothering nobody. But I wouldn't be surprised with that very ominous hint if somebody like John Morrison gets eliminated last minute at the hands of Jinder Mahal's goons at the behest of Jinder to get him into Money in the Bank. It could be even Ricochet. It could be any one of the men we talked about tonight, but the third and final person that qualified for the men's Money in the Bank on Raw probably will not be being sacrificed for Jinder Mahal, and that is Matt Riddle, who defeated Drew McIntyre in their qualifier tonight. This match was almost 25 minutes of hard-hitting action. These guys just really went at it. They were throwing bows at each other, man, and Drew McIntyre, with his back in the condition that it was in, just is very impressive that he was able to sustain himself through this matchup. Obviously, at times, he showed and sold the fact that his back was fucked up. But there were multiple times on this night where Drew McIntyre very easily could have had this match if Matt Riddle was not as tough as he proved to be in this matchup tonight. A fantastic match. I loved every minute of it. If you can give me more stuff like this on Monday nights on a more weekly basis, we would all be much happier. Every single one of us. Matt Riddle and Drew McIntyre tore it up. By far, the best qualifying match so far. Match of the whole entire night. Maybe the best match I've seen the WWE have all weekend long. And it's a match that we don't get overexposed. Or it hasn't been overexposed. A couple of matches on this night were kind of new. Not so much of a rematch kind of vibe. And I don't know if it's that... It's not that Raw was better than its usual self. I think it's just that Hell in a Cell was so fucking boring and unimpressive and unimportant that just by default, anything they put on Raw tonight was going to feel better than that piece of shit show that they threw at us last night. Now, that doesn't mean that Raw was good. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't good. This one match was fucking great, but the rest of the show still left a lot to be desired, as usual. But if you missed Riddle versus McIntyre, Money in the Bank qualifier, do yourself a favor and go back and watch it. Don't go back and watch the segment where Jackson Riker was beating the shit out of himself with a leather belt. Apparently, this guy's been watching too much Game of Thrones, and he's doing one of those, I'm a crazy guy and I'm going to punish myself for my sins kind of deal. I don't know. But he's hurting himself to better himself. I guess this would somehow transition into a weird segment with Mansoor. He's trying to talk to Jackson Riker. I guess Mansoor's whole gimmick right now is I'm going to ask everybody I can for advice because I can't get another fucking match on this show if my life depended on it. So he goes for advice, I guess, to this weird guy who's beating the shit out of himself, I guess, because, that's where I would go for advice. The fucking crazy guy on the corner that's talking to himself and he's scratching himself like this and he's looking around and every once in a while he'll smack himself in the face and be like, psh, psh, yeah, and then he'll be talking to grandma. Hey, grandma, that's not the kind of guy you go to fucking advice for. All right, you don't go to that guy. Apparently, nobody taught this lesson to Mansoor, as he's going over to Jackson Riker, who's just standing there, whipping himself, talking weird nonsense about don't, let your enemy escape. Keep your enemies close is the old adage he was going for. Keep your friends close, enemies closer. What does any of this mean? Does anybody care? It was kind of cryptic. It was kind of creepy. All of that was to set up a strap match with Elias next week on Raw. So hopefully the whole whipping himself to death with the strap was only to promote this one match, and that's not like his new deal. And soon he's going to be coming out in a monk's robe with a friggin' flail with spikes and just torturing himself because he said a bad word yesterday. And I ate something that wasn't on the approved WWE diet. Oh my God, I said something stupid again. I gotta whip the shit out of myself. Self-deprecation is great on Monday Night Raw. Let's see some more of that. This wouldn't be over as then Mustafa Ali came in because, he's been the one trying to give advice to Mansoor. He told him he keeps looking for answers in the wrong directions and you keep asking the wrong people. He said they should be asking why they weren't given Money in the Bank qualifying matches, and I'm sitting there agreeing with fucking Ali. These guys, again, should be in these type of situations. If they don't have to be winning, they don't have to be qualifying for the Money in the Bank, but they should at least be in consideration. Mustafa Ali was the leader of the ill-fated Retribution. He was going somewhere, right? Wasn't there some sort of upward mobility? Wouldn't it make sense to have him be involved some sort? Mansoor's been on an undefeated streak until he came to Monday Night Raw, but he's still undefeated in singles action. Shouldn't that warrant something? I guess not. Anyway, Ali told him that if you're not given a chance to climb the ladder, you have to build your own ladder and climb that. And then they looked over at Psycho, who was still standing in the corner whipping himself. And then they announced that next week there's going to be a wild card, last chance, triple threat qualifier pitting the three losers tonight against each other for one final opportunity to get the fourth and final Raw spot for the Money in the Bank match. So obviously that's going to consist of Randy Orton taking on Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles. Okay, now there's a number of possibilities there. Randy Orton is my favorite to win only because Matt Riddle won. He said how cool would it be if they both got in the match. I think that was kind of being planted like a seed in the night, and maybe that's the end result of this triple threat. I don't foresee Drew McIntyre winning this. He shouldn't win this because he can't fight Bobby Lashley, and I know he can hold the Money in the Bank all year or he could take the Money in the Bank over to SmackDown after the trade or something like that. But I don't think Drew McIntyre needs Money in the Bank. He needs some time away from the top and let him rebuild from the bottom up. Maybe put a couple of other people over along the way. Maybe Drew McIntyre will be the guy Jinder Mahal takes out if he wins his way in, which would kind of be a waste of Randy Orton. And once again, AJ Styles doesn't need to win. He's the tag team champion. Should be focusing on that right now with the Viking Raiders waiting in the wings. But again, instead of doing that, they could have very easily have done like a final chance fatal four-way with the likes of a Ali and a Mansoor and some of the other guys in the upper mid card if they wanted to. But that's not what they decided to do. And they closed the night with a return to the red rope licorice big gigantic milk crate of doom, now known as the Hell in a Cell. Bobby Lashley and Xavier Woods had a good match here, but did it need to be in a Hell in a Cell? No. The only reason it was in a Hell in a Cell is because the WWE catered to the disgruntled NBC Universal executives who were pissed off at Vince McMahon for taking Roman Reigns' Hell in a Cell match off of the pay-per-view, which was going to be streaming on Peacock, which is an NBC Universal property, and instead put it on free television for their competitor, who is also their working partner with the WWE, Fox, for SmackDown. So, in order, I guess, to mend bridges or to, give them a consolation prize, it's like, listen, hey, we're sorry, we'll give you your own Hell in a Cell match. Since Fox had one, you can have one too. Like two spoiled children fighting in the back over a peach. And then, hey, lo and behold, Dad has another peach. Hey, guess what? You don't gotta fight because here you go. It's Father's Day. I come prepared, you little bastards. And that's what Vince McMahon is doing. Obviously, he's well-groomed with dealing with two spoiled, rotten children, and that's what he's dealing with here. And he caved. He caved in. I mean, the cell's up there anyway. Let's just use it again. But who are we going to put in there? Who cares? We'll just come up with it on the fly. Well, I appreciate the performance of both men in this match. It didn't need to be a cage match. And for all of its faults and for all of the unnecessariness of it, this cage match ended up producing one of the better endings to a Monday Night Raw that there has been in quite some time. There was no way, even though this was a non-title match, that Xavier Woods was coming out on top. And he put up a hell of a fight. He did look great here. But he ended up tapping out to the Hurt Lock. And then things would get a little cagey, no pun intended. Or maybe it was. MVP gets the lock and chain from the referee, locks the cage from the inside. So now Kofi can't get into the Hell in a Cell as Bobby continues to torture Kofi's brother, Xavier Woods, not releasing the Hurt Lock, bringing him right up against the cage, rubbing his face into the cage as he had the Hurt Lock cinched in, with Kofi on the other side begging and pleading for Bobby to let go. MVP celebrating, Bobby Lashley not giving an inch, the look of pain and anguish on Xavier's face, the pain and the suffering on Kofi Kingston's face, the compassion that he was pleading in his voice. It was just very dramatic. It was very well done. And if you can watch that segment and not feel for these guys, then you're a cold-blooded bastard. Me, as a person that loves his friends, has a real-life brother who I love, and I mean, just picture somebody who is your sibling, or somebody who is as close as a sibling can be, for those of you that don't have a brother or a sister who you love in this world. Watching them in that situation that Xavier Woods was in, that's Kofi's brother, man. And he's being tortured by the big bully in the yard. You're on the other side of the fence, and you can't get in to save your little bro. That's touching. That's gripping stuff. And for that one reason, and one reason only, the Hell in a Cell was kind of cool to have on Raw tonight. But you take out that one little end segment, it was not necessary at all. Just a case of WWE giving it away for free, further diminishing the value of a Hell in a Cell match, since we're being honest about it. When we were talking about the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view last night, I jumped the gun. I said, I hope we don't ever see the Hell in a Cell again. If I never seen Hell in a Cell again, it'll be too soon. Lo and behold, 24 hours later, we're sitting here talking about another Hell in a Cell. Bobby Lashley is still the almighty champion. He is on a collision course with Kofi Kingston. Kofi challenged Bobby Lashley to a world title matchup. He wants another shot at Bobby's gold, and they're basing it off of the fact that Kofi beat Bobby a couple of weeks back, in case you've forgotten. That's why he's getting this matchup. I appreciate that they're moving him away from Drew. Kofi Kingston is not the answer, but I did like the drama to end tonight as we faded to black on such a dramatic and powerful moment, which is not something we get very often on a Monday Night Raw. So, as hard as we are on this show, I always give credit. And if you can't be big enough to say, yeah, you know what, this show sucked, but at least this was good and that was good, then you're not being honest with yourself. This show, honestly, had more ups and downs than Simon Miller can shake a stick at. By the time he's done with his video, he's going to slap himself silly it was up and down so much on this show. Props to Simon. I love that guy over at What Culture. I'm sure plenty of you guys watch him as well. What an entertaining gentleman. I would love to work with him someday. Thank you, everybody, for joining me once again on the Sledgehammer TV's Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's review of Monday Night Raw. I appreciate the large outpouring of support this weekend, the huge surge of subscribers we had. We are over 2,900. We are so close to 3,000. Help us get there right now. If you are not already a member of the Sledge Nation, all you have to do to become a Sledgehead is hit that subscribe button right now. Make sure your notifications are on so that you don't miss a video anytime we put them up here on YouTube, as we continue to bring the hammer down on the WWE like nobody else can do. You can also help this channel out by hitting that like button if you enjoyed yourself here, if you liked what I had to say, if you liked my little Nikki Cross little segue that we did earlier, if you like my poop hammers, if you like anything about this show. Hit that like button so that I know and that YouTube knows, because it really helps us out here on the channel. Share this video with any one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if they need a place to come call home so that they too can come and take a big old shit on the WWE with us. Invite them over and have them subscribe as well. I can't tell you how much I love you guys. SummerSlam is fastly approaching. I know we got Money in the Bank coming at us first, but SummerSlam is going to be the end of year 5, the beginning of year 6 on YouTube. So let's kick it off with a bang and get to that 3,000 mark before SummerSlam hits. Maybe we'll do some sort of a special video. I don't know. I got to try to figure it out. I'm open to suggestions. Leave anything you want in the comments section down below. But keep it respectful or I'll boot your ass out of here. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team for the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue, the Yeti microphone, the most important member of the team, as always, each and every one of you. If you missed the Hell in a Cell review, it will be linked in the annotations up above. The Masters of the Universe trailer reaction, my Resident Evil gameplay, the SmackDown and Raw reviews, anything you want is here on Sledgehammer TV. Click away and have a good time. Enjoy your stay while you're here. That, my friends, is going to do it. We are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. And as always, we sign off by saying,
Thanks, Vince.